Welcome to the webinar on MMS Generation's Automated Schedule Builder Constraints. This is Beth Elliott and I'm your trainer today, and we're going to be going over how to set up the constraints that Automated Schedule Builder will need to actually build your schedule. And there are three parts to the constraints. There's the course constraints, teacher constraints, and room constraints. So we're going to start with the course constraints. And we're going to reach those by going in one of two places. We can either go in under School and edit the course catalog, or we could come in through the web portal of the staff portal and go in under Manage and edit the course catalog. If your user account has been set up for the web link, it will automatically bring you into the web portal. We're going to come into the portal to look at this. Make sure that you're in the correct school year, and we're going to go to the Course Schedule Constraints tab. There's actually two areas that we're going to work with. The first is the constraints, but we're also going to touch on the course sequence data. But in the schedule constraints, this is where you're going to tell the system how many sections you want to build, what is going to be the maximum enrollment for those sections, what is your maximum concurrent sections, and concurrent sections are where you're going to, how many sections can you build concurrently in the same time slot. So it would be the exact same periods, days, and term. So if I only have one teacher for a particular subject, then I probably want to set my maximum concurrent sections to 1. If I leave it at 0, it's telling the system to build whatever it needs based on my section patterns. And if it needs to, it can put more than one section into the same time slot. So depending on what it is, you can change that as needed. You can indicate whether you want Automated Schedule Builder to build your sections or not. You might have sections or courses that you decided you wanted to build and place in a certain area, or are dictated by another school, such as a career tech school. If you have students going to the local tech for auto body, that is an area where you don't have any control over it, so you're just going to build the section and it will be there. If I want to edit one of these courses, all I need to do is click on the Edit button on the left, the little pencil, going to bring up the course, give me little spinners that I can use, or I can just type in. And if I hover, it'll show me, for things like the number of sections, I can actually go up to 999 sections. But you can set what are your maximums, concurrent sections, and so on, and whether you want automated to build. The check here translates to the dot here. And then you can select one or more of your section patterns. The patterns are always going to be in alphabetic or sort order, so numbers will sort before letters, and capital letters sort before lowercase letters. If you select more than one pattern, it's going to load up everything in the first pattern before it loads up what's in the second pattern. When you're done, you just click Save, and you go to the next course. What's really nice in the web portal is you actually see what the patterns are that you have selected. I might decide that I'm swapping my patterns that between 9th grade and 10th grade, I want to use a pattern that is in the opposite direction. So the year 1 to 18 has the periods running first period of the day to the last period of the day, but 8 to 1 can be saying, oh, I want to go in the other direction for those patterns. So it gives me the ability to very nicely come in, click on the course, and change it. And I can just scroll down and I can opt that different grades are going to be in different directions. The reason I might be doing that is to give the system a way to try and balance which end of the day that I'm going to put the classes in, so I get a better balance in my schedule. So it's just a matter of coming in, changing it, and saving it. Now, if you have a course that you're not offering 1 year, you can come in and just say, leave all the other information up there, but decide, oh, I didn't have anybody who asked for British and World Lit, so I can just come in, hit the edit, and say, don't build. I can leave all the other information the way it is. I can just say, don't build this course this year, because I don't have the request for it. And that's how easy it is to change what you're working with. The course sequence data is where you would specify if I have semester or shorter than year-long courses, what sequence do I want the courses to be assigned to the student? So on year-long courses, it won't matter. But when I get into my semester courses, if my theater arts are semester courses, then I can come into Theater Arts 3 and say that a pre-course is going to be Theater Arts 2. So I need to have, if the student asks for both, then I want to make sure that they're scheduled into Theater Arts 2 earlier in the year than Theater Arts 3. This is not prerequisites. It's not going to look to see if they had the course in a prior year. They're only going to look in the current year. And it only has to do with what order or sequence do I schedule the students into the sections. And you can do that for each of the courses that are non-year long. And you can just type the number that you're looking for. So I did a 121 for my Journalism 2. And in Journalism 3, I can look at 122 for Journalism 2. Now, some of the courses, the reason that there are up to 10 different courses is it depends on the levels of the course. If I look at my creative writing, it might be that before I take creative writing 2, I might also want a different course that I can work with that. And I also have honors courses versus non-honors courses. So depending on the sequence, I might need multiple. If I had computer courses, I might have that before I can take web design, I need to take how to use Word, or I need to take how to use a computer. So there could be multiples that I could select. Any of those can go before the last course that or the first course that I'm looking at here. And that's how you set up your constraints. The next is to go over the teachers. And I might come in here in my Manage, and I might want to look at my course sections from last year. The advantage of this is when I look at the sections, especially when I'm in the web portal, I can sort by a couple of different things. And one of those, as I scroll down, is it gives me the ability to sort by the teacher. And this lets me see what did they teach in the current school year, so I have a better idea of what did they teach in another school year. So if I go into the A's, I can see this teacher and what did they teach last year. And then I can come into my generations and go to school, edit staff, either basic or expanded. The advantage of the basic is it gives me the ability to come in and find out what's going on. Now the basic is that I don't have Staff Info 2, which has their certification and that sort of information, and it also does not include the address. So I really don't need that information in order to do my constraints. What I can do is come in and look at the potentials of things like what are the departments that the teacher may teach anything in. And that's why we might want to limit if I move the departments over. Okay, so it's not used very often, but it's here if you want to. And you can move up to 4 different departments. Some of the things like for science or art, you might have a teacher who teaches painting but doesn't teach music, and both of those can be in the art department. So you got to be careful of what the department is. But if I have an English teacher, they might be able to teach anything that's in my English department. The room constraints give me the ability to specify 1 or more rooms, and the order of the rooms determines the order that the automated schedule builder is going to try and place the teacher into. If I want room 122 to be a priority over 121, I can click the little mover square and move it up. Click and hold and move. To move the rooms over, I would just highlight on the left and click the move button. The may teach only in this room would apply to a teacher that has a basic room that they're in all the time. So I could say they can only teach, the may teach only is really a must teach in the room that I specify. And you can only specify 1 room. The course constraints gives you a where you can specify how many sections of what courses you want the teacher to teach. There is a must teach on the top side, and there's a may teach at the bottom. So this is where we can come in and specify how many. Automated cannot put this teacher into more sections than you specify here. It can build the sections, it just can't assign the teacher to more than the number that are here. If I go back into my section listing when I was in the portal, I can see that last year this teacher taught 3 sections of health, both 9th grade and 12th grade, and 3 sections of driver ed and had a prep. So this year they're set up for art, so I might instead want to bring in the health courses. So it just gives you that option to be able to come in and say, oh, those are the ones I want. So I can move those over, move them up to the top. Now if I right-click, as it shows here with the little display, I can increase the number of sections that this teacher can be assigned to. If I put it up too high, I can come down here and reduce the number or increase it. Either one works. So it makes it nice to be able to just bump those up. So that's how I can put my courses in. I might opt that I want to put them as the art to be a may teach rather than a must teach. So I can come down here, type the 417 to find it, and then just move the courses I want to put over there. And then take them out of up here with the remove button. So I can specify which courses the teacher must teach versus which ones they may teach. When I finish with this teacher, I can use the stack of folders and go find a different teacher. So if I want to go to Baja, I can just double-click on Baja and see what classes they're going to be in. And then I can go back into my section listing, go to the next one, and take a look and see what they're teaching. So Baja didn't have any classes last year. BBEC was in band and BICE was in English. BICE had English 9 and a journalism section. So if I come back over here, I can go to BICE and specify what I want them to teach. The last of the setups for the teacher is the time constraints. The time constraints let you specify what is the maximum periods per day a teacher may teach, what is the maximum periods per week, and that is your schedule week, not the calendar week. You might have a 2-day schedule. You might have a 6-day schedule. You can set up what is the maximum consecutive classes, how many classes in a row can the teacher be assigned to before there's a break. And some of these come down to what is in the contracts so that I can make decisions in that. You can set up a maximum total sections for the year or a maximum different courses for the year. When you leave any of these numbers 0, you're saying you're ignoring that particular value. Basically, it's infinity. The maximum periods per week, if it's just the maximum periods per day times the number of days in your schedule, you really don't have to fill it in. Remember on the maximum total sections that if you have a teacher teaching non-year-long courses, it's more than just the number of periods per day. So if I'm teaching quarter classes and I can teach 8 periods a day, so the 8 times 4 gives me 32. So remember you have that to contend with. The right-hand side is where you can specify the times the teacher is unavailable. So you might have, in this case, BICE is not available the first 3 periods of the day. It might be that they have other duties, or they might be teaching at another school, because you're sharing the teacher from one school to another. So in this school, you can specify when they are not available. And that can be based on a specific term. Here we're starting period 1, going for a length of 3, and it's the full days of the week. It could be that they might have only been not available a certain semester, so I could change that to be my semesters, quarters, trimesters, whatever the terms are I have specified for the school year, and I could change what days it is. And I can add multiple items in here if that so applies. I might want to make sure that my coaches in phys ed area are not teaching the last period of the day so they can get preparation for an away game or even a home game. So things like that that you can put in. And you would just use the yellow plus to add in another time frame. So if I wanted to put in that this teacher was not available the last period of the day, I can come down and say it's period 8. But it's only in semester 1 that they're not available, and they're only not available on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And if I then decide that the teacher is now available because circumstances have changed, I can come in, go to the red X, and remove that line. So it's very easy to change what constraints they have. When I go to locate a teacher, right now it's doing it by last name, but I could opt that I want to do it by my staff ID, and that means when I go to the stack of folders, they're going to be in the ID order rather than the student name order. Now in my system, the teacher code is pretty much the first 3 letters of their last name, so it's very similar. But you might have numbers as your staff ID or a combination of letters and numbers. Just gives you that capability. And what we're seeing here is the teacher display name, which if I go to my staff info 1 is this. But that sort, what it does it by last name is actually by what is in the last name field. So you might have some people at the top of the list, and they're there even though they're not alphabetic is because they don't have a last name filled in. So just to let you know why you might end up with some teachers in the wrong place. That's all you need to do for your teacher constraints. I'm going to save and exit out of here, and then I'm going to go into the room editor. So that's going to be under School, Edit Rooms, and the rooms are just a list of what rooms are available or locations. The room code is up to 6 characters. You can give it a description, and you can set constraints. So if I want to go into the computer lab, I can see what is the maximum seats for the room. If that number is greater than 0, then the system cannot assign a section that has a maximum of what they need higher than what this room will hold. So I might have set a course that they have 21 as the maximum in that section to give me a sort of an area to balance with. But I know I'm never going to put more than 19 students in there. The fact that the constraint in the catalog said 21 and this room says 20 means I cannot put the section into this room because the maximum of 21 is higher than the maximum the room can hold. So you have to be aware of that. A lot of times the only time you put in the maximum room seats is when it is critical. So leaving it 0 says you can do whatever you want. So there are times that's what you want to do. As we did with the teachers, you can set a time when the room is not available. That might be a situation where the room is being used for something else. Maybe you have a video production room, but the video production room is used, I'm at the high school, it might be used by the middle school students during periods 7 and 8. So at that point, I would specify that this room is not available because in effect I have someone else using it. You can come in to the course constraints. Course constraints similar to the teacher constraints is courses the room must be used for. I don't specify how many sections, but I am specifying what courses must use the room. So being a computer lab, I have my computer courses in it. I don't want something like my physics in my computer lab. Wrong use of the room. You can go into the departments and specify which departments may use the room. And the department list is always under the may side of it. If I come back to the course constraints, there is an extra button that I don't have under the teachers that lets me say, oh, add the department courses to the may list. So this gives me a way to preload the room, so it puts 17 courses in here. But I might know computer lab, no, I don't want my industrial tech in the computer room. So I can take those out. And if I already have them up here, I don't need them down here per se. So it just lets me work with what's here. My mechanical drawing or architectural drawing, it might be that those are better in a different type of room, so I can take those out of the list. But it does give me that ability to come in and say, oh, I want these in here, but I don't need the other ones. So I can come in and know that, okay, I already have my computer programming up here, the networking is in here, and I can take these out. So it was just sort of a way to preload the room. So I can add my robotic design into it without worrying about the other things. Then I could have just moved the individual rooms. So that gives me a way to specify what's going to be in there. If my teacher is assigned to a must teach or may only teach in a specific room, I don't necessarily have to come into the room constraints and put them on. But if I have a teacher that can go into multiple rooms, if you think about your phys ed teacher who is also teaching health, then the phys ed courses need to be in the gym, where the health courses can be in a regular room. That's an instance where I might be specifying what rooms those should go in. Or if there is, like the computer lab, there are equipment items that specify, so it gives you that option. When you run Automated Schedule Builder, for the rooms and the teachers, you can specify, I want to work with the must only. I can work with all constraints, where it doesn't make a distinction between must and may. Or you can say, don't use any of the constraints that I have put in. So it depends on how you run Automated as to how much this comes into account. So the question I have is, the rooms to be used will be on the right. That is correct in that when we set this up, as we move them to the right, courses the room must be used for, or the courses the room may be used for. And if I was going through the teacher would have been, if I go back in there for just a moment, when I go into the room constraints, these are the available rooms, but the rooms on the right are the ones that the teacher may use. Or when this Automated builds this, these are the rooms that are going to be associated with this teacher. So either one of those works. Now, whether I'm in the Edit Staff or Edit Rooms, I can always go up to the Printer button. Right now, the Edit Staff is the highlighted one. And if I go to Print, I can opt that, oh, I want to print the teacher's scheduling constraints. If I'm doing the constraints, I can also specify which of the 4 areas do I want to see. So if I leave all of it open, you can do a new page for each staff member, and that can be handy if I am associating this with department heads, saying here's your, for each of the teachers we want to mark it up. Or I can opt, no, I really just want to do one master list of the staff that are here. But I could come up and say, oh, give me Bice, give me Cameron, give me Com, and I can pick the teachers that I want and print just those. If I max this out, I'll be able to see here is the teacher ID, their display name and full name, their email address, what gender they are if it matters, and then here we have the times that the teacher was unavailable, what they may teach, so here are their time constraints, the courses they must teach with how many sections, what they may teach, so this teacher is assigned to the lunches, what department they must teach in, and the room that they must teach in, not the department, and then what department they may teach from. So this particular teacher may teach from either the English department or the business department. And then I can come down and look at Cameron and see what's assigned, if anything. So Cameron is teaching lifeguarding but has no other constraints in there other than a maximum of 3 periods per day. So it lets me do a quick look. What you don't want to do is have a room constraint in the teacher and have it conflict with the room constraints that are in the room. So if I'm saying Bice must teach in room 213, and I look at room 213, I want to make sure that the room of the must that's in here does not conflict with what the teacher is going to teach. Again, as we did with the teachers, you can check which of the constraints that you want to look at. And if you just want a list of the rooms, then you uncheck the constraint area. So I can go ahead and print, and I can see that this room must be used for English 9, English 9 Honors, and Com Studies 11 Plus, but it may also be used for journalism. So I can compare that to what the teacher has. So it's a nice quick way to verify what you have going on. You don't have to put descriptions in your rooms. It can just be handy. Just as we did the constraint listing for the staff and rooms, we can also, right here in school, if I want, go to school management reports and go to a catalog listing. And I can come in and pick up the constraint listing. The first I'll do is actually the sequencing listing, and I can do only sequenced courses if I want. So when I print, it's only going to show me those courses that are set up with sequence. So it's basically letting me know that these courses must be scheduled first before the other course. So I need to do Journalism 2 before I do Journalism 3, or Journalism before Journalism 2. If I do the Excuse me, let me go back in there. If I do the course constraint listing, I can just decide, do I want to do it in code order, course name, or in department order. And when I print, it's going to show me for each of my courses what was the maximum sections, concurrent, enrollment. Do I want to enable new section allocation, which is automated to build, and what patterns am I working with? If I run this from the staff portal, that section listing looks, I'm in the sections. Let me go to the catalog. I can actually come straight over to the course catalog listing, or there is a button when I'm in the course catalog edit that will bring me into the catalog listing, and I can come in and say, oh yes, I want to see the constraints, and go ahead and print. Now, right from here, when I'm in the staff portal, I can change my output if I'd like to see it first, and then I can go to Excel or to a comma-separated value or into a PDF. And if I select one of those, I would be able to click the export button that is right here. Otherwise, I can go straight to the printer if that's what I'd like to see. In this report, we have the same information that we had in Generations. We have our maximum sections and concurrency, the enrollment, enable new section allocation, and then the pattern, instead of being on the right, patterns are underneath. And I can just go forward through them and see what's going on. Now here, there is no section allocation, and there is also no pattern. I can have a pattern and not have, actually I'm in the wrong year. Let me come up into 15. And because I changed the school year, I have to print again. Let's go to the constraints. So I can come in and see what's being set up. And I might have a situation when I come down into my British and World Lit where I'm not allocating this year, but I do have a pattern that gives me the ability to review. And if I go back to my setup, I want to do only my sequenced rather than all my courses. So here is the original course, the department, and then the sequence is over on the right as to what courses that must be scheduled before the course that I have indicated. And those are basically your constraints of how do you set them up. So all of them give you a way to specify. In any of these, as you're setting them up, either if you're in the reports or in the actual edit, you can go into help, and you don't want to block the pop-up. So we want to change this and say I want to always allow, because my help is a pop-up. So I can come back and hit that, and it's going to bring up help for where I am. Now it knows I'm in the catalog listing, and it's going to specify the difference in the type of reports that I'm doing. And I can actually go in and see what's going on to get more information on that. If I was in MMS Generations and I hit the question mark, I would also bring up help. So I can come in and see what's going on. I can hit the show, which gives me the table of contents. And it lets me see what's going on. So some of this is showing me because the last thing I brought up was the web portals. But I can also come in and say, oh, I want to come into the school management jobs and go into the reports and look at my catalog listings. So the same type of information, it just is coming from a different viewpoint. If I was in doing the actual edit, so if I come in to edit Staff Basic, and I am on the Constraints tab, then when I go up to the question mark, it knows that I am on the Constraints, and that's where it's going to bring me. So the help is here. It's going to give me what version of the software that I'm running. It's also going to give you the website that has knowledge base articles and tech bites and other webinar videos. It'll give you the email address for support and the phone number here for support, so that it gives you that nice way to get a hold of us. If I was working on the portal, I could bring up another tab and come in to the website. It will ask you to log in with your account for the district. So you enter it once, you enter your account number again, and you log in. The knowledge base is where you can look at different information, and you can click on the knowledge base link, and it will allow you to search for what's up here. So I might want to look for things on scheduling, and it's going to bring up all the different articles on how to schedule. If you don't find what you need, you can contact us. If you have a webinar subscription, you can come in and look at what webinars are coming up. And you can also look at the Video Learning Center. The Video Learning Center has either the Tech Bites, which are 5 to 15 minutes in length, or it has recorded webinars that are usually up to an hour and a half or so. So it gives you an area where you can come in and look at that. When I'm in under Manage on the Staff portal, this is where it lets me edit the catalog, the courses, or the departments, and or create filters. The other just gives me the ability to print the areas. When you're coming in under scheduling, this is where you're going to be able to pull up additional information when we get there. So I hope this has been helpful, and the Running Automated Schedule Builder is the next webinar in this series. So hopefully we'll see you then.